Hello! I've been planting so many flowers, and so I want to show you that, but I also want to talk about plant hardiness zones and how mine just changed. So what is a plant hardiness zone? It's basically the minimum average temperature. No, it's basically the average annual minimum temperature of your area. So that just means it's looking at the past 30 years of data in your region and seeing what are the lowest temperatures it got to every year and taking an average of that. So for the longest time I've lived in Alaska, or for all the time that I've lived here in Alaska, which is maybe coming up on 6 years now, I have known this place to be a zone 4B. So whenever I plan my garden, or when I was new and like getting used to and researching the kind of perennials that I could keep in the ground, that I could expect to come back, I just knew that I can only look for things that are zone 4 or lower. So zone 3, zone 2, it's not that there's much option there. A lot of great cold climate perennials though. I made a video about it if you want to check that out. But anyways, I started looking online for plants just like to get ideas about, what I might want for the future, what I might want to want more perennials that I want to put in my garden, because I still have a pretty young garden. I've been gardening here in this house for like a couple of years now, and I've been slow with filling things out, especially because I planted a lot of perennials and I started a lot of perennials from seed, and it kind of takes a while to fill in. So anyways, I'm still looking for a bunch of plants, or just trying to give myself ideas about what will look good, what I can do really. And I started noticing earlier this year that it assumed my zone to be a zone 5. And sometimes what happens with anything that is location based is it always kind of initially assumes that I'm in someplace like Washington or Portland. So I kind of brushed it off for a little while, and I just kept seeing it, and I started entering in my zip code also. So when I enter my zip code, it also tells me that I'm a zone 5A. And so I looked it up, and it turns out the USDA released its new map, a new hardiness map, in November of 2023. So this past November, just a few months ago, and I guess I didn't notice it until now because I only just started looking again at plants. So I guess it's not such a big deal because I kind of already knew what temperatures it usually goes down to in the winter, and that's all that really means. It is a little bit warmer. It's gotten warmer from their last map that they released, which I've been using this whole time, was from 2012. This map, released in November 2023. It's looking at the data from 1991 to 2020. Anyway, I think it said that half of the US, half of the hardiness zones in the US kind of went up a half zone. So for me, it was from 4B to 5A. And I think that's a 5-degree difference in how cold it, on average, in the past 30 years has gotten. And that's, I don't know. A part of me is thinking, hey, that would be so cool if Alaska got a little bit warmer. But then also there's so many bad things that happens as a consequence of that. As a consequence of global warming in general. But specifically in Alaska, I think the way that is already being seen is people historically here, the native peoples, and even, in modern times, the not native peoples as well, and the natives alike, rely on fishing and rely on salmon and crabs. And maybe a couple of years ago there was this big headline going around of we lost a bunch of snow crabs or something like that, and they didn't know what happened. It's just vanished. They were always expected to come back to shore at a certain time of year, and we just didn't see them. And it's because now we know, we didn't at the time, I guess, or we didn't know for sure, that it's because the sea, the temperatures, the ocean temperatures are rising. So it's kind of, I don't know, just scary. It's not the best thing to know that things are warming a little bit. And what does this mean for gardening? Probably not much. It's not going to affect you very much. If you are an experienced gardener, you probably already know what works or what doesn't. Of course, I always think we can experiment. I mean, I personally love to like try and push the limits and see, you know, what varieties maybe are hardier than we think, or like can I get away with like mulching on top and seeing what different ways that I can, you know, grow different things that might not always work in my area. So the hardiness zones are like the first step of understanding what can I plant here, what perennials specifically can I plant here, what's this winter gonna look like. But more than that, and what you really have to think about if you're seriously planning on doing a lot of gardening, is like what microclimate you live in. Wind is a big thing that changes like very drastically from area to area, even within like a city or a town. Anyways, there's so many different things that will affect what does well and what doesn't do well in your garden. So this like reclassification of the hardiness zones, not such a big deal. I was reading on Reddit like some reactions to it, and people are saying, I don't know, like negative things of like it doesn't matter, like it's so stupid and things like that, but it is what it is. Like it's always been like the average of the minimum temperature that it gets to during the year. So this time around when they looked at it and did an analysis, which was about like 10 years after they did the last one, it's just gotten a little bit warmer. Anyway, enough with the hardiness zones. Let me tell you about all of the flowers that I've been planting in my garden. I started off earlier this week planting off some status, and I didn't get around to planting all of it, but I, you know, started in on preparing like this middle row of my hoop house. Just adding some more soil to the ground and then putting in some of my status. I don't think I even planted half yet. There's another space outside that I want to plant them in the ground. It's just not fully prepared yet. But it is getting like hot enough, so I think I'm about ready to start, you know, getting that bed ready and planting in it. And then I have some dahlia, pre-sprouted dahlia tubers. I actually planted a bunch in containers on my deck. I'm hoping that is gonna look really pretty. Just having these big containers on the deck, like filled with dahlias, which are like huge blooms. I don't know, I just like have an image of the deck looking really beautiful. But I have a lot, and so I wanted to put some in the hoop house. Dahlias are, you know, big flowers, big impact, so it'd be nice to, you know, make sure that I get some blooms. They like heat, and I think they'll be better in the hoop house than outside, or like they have a better chance at producing more in the hoop house. So I planted a bunch there. And then I have some cosmos. I didn't have a lot of cosmos seeds, so I only have about like a dozen. I got half of them planted in the hoop house. I just have like a few more things. I think I want to try and plant all my celosia if I can in the hoop house. So I didn't plant all of the cosmos, and I'm just going to dedicate the rest of the space to celosia, because those are super heat loving. I want to for sure like try and get some blooms, and I just don't know if I will if I put them outside. They had a kind of a harder time last year, and I don't know if that's just because I stunted them by maybe putting them out without hardening them off, or if it's because I didn't prepare my bed super well, but we'll see. And then I got a peony from Costco, and I kind of feel bad for buying so many plants this year from Costco, because I am like growing and trying to sell locally, like at the farmer's market. I feel like I should also be buying locally, and I do want to. So I have another space that I would love to put a peony in. I already have it planned out, and I think I'll try and look around at local nurseries and see if I can get a good plant. I know that I want like a light or a pale color bloom in that area, so I just have to make sure I find the right variety. But yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit more careful to buy locally instead of, you know, buying from big box stores. Here's the area that I decided to plant it in. It's behind the deck, so it gets a lot of afternoon sun and no morning sun. It's pretty shaded in the morning. I have a few perennials that are coming up from last year. So there are a bunch of lupin that I planted here. There are a few things that I don't know if I labeled or if I took the labels out, and I think this one for sure is echinacea. And some more delphinium that I planted. These are, I planted 3 of the Guardian Lavender series. Anyway, I got that planted in. I had to dig a hole in the ground. It wasn't so bad actually, the place where that is. Thankfully I didn't run into any huge tree roots. I dug the hole a little bit further away from the deck. Like I planted it in the big wall, so it's gonna get afternoon sun, which hopefully is enough for it to do super well. There's already a bunch of blooms on it. I put some compost on top and then I watered it in. Anyway, it's an exciting week. I still have a bunch more plants to plant out. Again, I have a big row that I need to prepare. It's my no-dig bed or row of things that I just need to get ready and then just plant in. I think also I have an idea for what I want to plant in the rest of the raised bed in the back of the hoop house, and probably I'll show you in my next video. But that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.